Anyway, there is one subject, Jamal, that I have been itching to talk to you about for weeks because I saw a video that you did about the U.S. Navy. Right, let me frame this right, because the U.S. Navy are starting to come out and say, yeah, we're seeing some weird shit here, and it's UFOs, and they're doing some weird stuff, and they're coming out and they're admitting to it, and they're admitting they don't know what it is. Now, my question to you is this, because I know that you have looked at this very, very deeply indeed. And my question to you is this: are we being primed for the mother of all false flag events?
Oh,
Are they going to fucking try and do a false flag on us as if it's been done by aliens? Because it seems to me that that is what that they are priming us for. What's happened here, Jamal? Fill us in.
All right. So Tom DeLonge, rock star from Blink 182, had a fascination with UFOs. Tom DeLonge is all throughout the WikiLeaks documents, And Tom DeLonge is essentially saying, look, I want to be able to bring this stuff to the public. And Tom DeLonge makes these governmental contacts, these spooks, and they give Tom DeLonge what he wants. What do you know? 3 videos hit the press from the Pentagon. Pentagon initially was like, we didn't put those videos out. Well, the Freedom of Information Act says that the Pentagon put those videos out. You can even point to the person who got those videos in order to be released. Those videos hit the airwaves. The Nimitz, one of the Navy ships. And I'm calling them by name because we know exactly where the ships were. And the Navy is not saying that this didn't happen. They are
This
owning up
is
to
this is unprecedented, isn't it? Them admitting to this.
It is. The New York Times comes out with an article saying that the U.S. government has a black budget project studying UFOs, AATIP. This is a bombshell. For all these years, the U.S. government says they weren't doing it. For all these years, the government was lying. Before New York Times Political came out with this story, Grant Cameron, a UFO guy, for almost a year, has said, the story is going to come out. They're going to release the story. Now, Grant Cameron knew. So this story comes out, and people are like, what? Luis Elizondo, the guy who's running that black budget project, quits his job and goes to work for Tom DeLonge in his new program, To the Stars Academy, that supposedly has the responsibility of being this kind of gateway between government and the public and getting this particular story and this information out. Now, Luis Elizondo starts talking to the press. Now, Luis Elizondo is being straightforward. He says, look, my job was to have scientific investigation into anomalous activity that we were seeing in the air to determine whether it was a threat and whether it was even legit. Based on my scientific observation, because Aaron Burnett of CNN asked him, are we being visited? Luis Elizondo says, based on my own scientific observation, and there's plenty of videos that you guys haven't seen. You guys have only seen 3. You guys have only heard the pilots talking on 3. There's far more videos that are out there, including potential materials. Based on that, the answer is yes. These are not our craft. I don't believe these are our craft. That's what he said.
They're moving. They are moving at a speed. And now, from what I can tell, it's not the speed horizontal. It's the vertical speed, isn't it? It's almost like they're appearing and disappearing. And it's like they're defying the laws of physics, what they're saying that they're spotting.
Yes, we understand it. Because again, the pilots themselves come out and start talking. Meaning the pilots who are on these videos. So understand, in the past, it was, we have this document that was in this vault that we believe came from so-and-so. But that's not this. This is videos being released showing craft that are doing weird anomalous stuff and pilots talking about it doing weird anomalous stuff. These are the ships themselves where you can identify the Roosevelt or the Nimitz. These are the pilots themselves that are coming out talking to the press, multiple pilots, meaning the radar footage, the ships, the pilot, all of this stuff is out for review. The pilots themselves said, it was a piece of technology. It wasn't ours. It was doing stuff that we couldn't do. And that they were moving at speeds that left our craft like we were standing still. In fact, it was going so fast, in fact, that a human being would have been crushed in the craft. Now, this is what the pilots are saying. The pilots are not saying this from the perspective of, it was some light in the sky. The pilots are.
He's saying the G-force would crush him if he was going that fast.
They're looking at the technology for minutes on end, saying, this is a piece of technology and it's not ours. Now, when these guys are going on the press and they're having these conversations and everything else, New York Times comes out with another story. It's not just one or two. Many pilots are seeing these
Yeah.
things. Now, at the Aspen Forum, the Navy, one of the Navy commanders for, I think it was for the China area, for Asia Pacific. These are neocons, and this was a forum that was not for aliens. The question was, how does the United States curb the influence of China? That was a question. A guy in the audience says, what about them UFOs? Now they laugh at this guy. They shouldn't laugh at this guy because all of the stuff that's been hidden in the press has said this is legit. This is not BS. The general says, or the admiral says, yeah, for a period of time we were engaged with something, but we've opened up a new branch where people can report those activities, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It's like, what? You just admitted. This is a branch of the U.S. military that has just admitted we have been experiencing anomalous activities that we don't know what they are, that is doing things that goes beyond our craft, but we're not going to say anything else about it.
So guy in the audience asks an admiral a question about UFOs. Everybody laughs at him. Admiral says, well, we've sorted that, but now we've got the thing. And everybody goes, what the fuck?
The admiral says yes. And I'm always enamored by this because, the moment that you're on CNN and the guy who's running a black budget project about aliens says, yes, I think we're being visited, and you don't immediately stop the program. Instead, you go to like a McDonald's commercial. He's just like, this is somebody who's part of the government. Now, Grant Cameron's argument is you're getting confirmation. You're not getting disclosure. The difference between those things is it's not Trump coming out with an alien body saying, here's the alien body, here's the shit, bam, and leave. It's confirmation. It's this kind of two-step of whatever, because, and you can understand it to some degree, whatever you put out in the public, you're stuck with. If the public reacts in a way that says, oh shit, and they start setting stuff on fire, you're stuck with that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, we're pushing this out gently and seeing how the public reacts, and the public's reaction.
Once it's out, it's out. The genie's out the bottle.
Right. And then instead, the public is, to confirmation, has been like, yeah, okay. Like, the weirdest thing to me, these guys are just calling and says, we are being visited by something that we don't know what they are. Or at the very least, something is in our airspace that we don't know what they are. At the very least, on an overt level. That's what's being said. Yeah, I have some skeptics on my channel. I was like, oh man, they don't know what it is. Yeah, but at the end of the day, this is not a document. This is a lot of people, part of the government, asking Trump, what about them aliens? Ask Congress members, asking the Navy, what about those aliens? What about those ships? What about those videos? What about those? All of these people who are in government at this point have started asking questions. And the media has started asking questions. And the media started publishing stuff about it. Like the point where you have people who are in the military. The guy who, Fravor, I think his name, was flying on 9/11. He was the guy who was making sure our skies were safe. So if you're looking for legitimacy, he's it. And he's saying something was in our skies that was doing stuff that I had no idea what they could do. It was a piece of technology and it wasn't ours. Here's the catch. My argument is it's either us or it's not. And I say that, but when you think about it, both are profound. If it's not us, there is something else in our skies that we are being visited. If it is us, that means that there is a secondary track of technology that when our own pilots looked at it, said, oh my God.
And if that's the case, whose technology is it? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, they have started finding all this shit out since they upgraded their technology, their sensors sort of thing. Is that right?
So there are two things. So over the years, the pilots have been seeing them in general. Just if we're being honest. Even Brits. There's a report where one of the British pilots for the RAF was sent out and was observing the craft, where he came out and he was giving his own testimony. But it didn't seem to take residence until the pilots in the US started talking about this stuff. They upgraded the technology, and in a weird way, you could be looking at it with your own eyes and can't see it. And yet it shows up on the technology. Now, part of this might be, we make assumptions, and some of those assumptions are not right. We assume that if something is going from point A to point B, that it's doing so by pushing something out of the back of its engine. Well, that's not necessarily true in all cases of technology. No. And if there is a upgrade, let's say, for example, there's been a breakthrough in some level of physics, because one of the documents from the Freedom of Information Act that was released was all of the weird physics that the U.S. military had been studying: electromagnetic, electrophysics, invisibility, warp drive, portals, all this weird.
You start thinking, okay, how about an aircraft that can create a vacuum in front of it and move in a vacuum? Those sort of technologies, that's theoretically possible.
But gravitics, Like, assuming for the moment you're using gravity, like people, like if you're using some level of gravity to get you from point A to point B, then what is taking place on the inside of the craft may not necessarily be the same thing that's taking place on the outside of the craft.
Yes.
Meaning, even though it's going from point A to point B at these fantastic speeds, from the observer on the inside, there's no inertia. Like
there's a physics thing that I remember from when I was taking my physics class
like, instead of using just propellant, you're using a quirk in physics in order to make that work. Like like electrogravitics, like you're using electromagnetics in order to kind of create a gravitational effect. Now, what's his name in Congress have said, in order to, if what you're seeing is correct, there are all sorts of technological and scientific things that you need to explain to us. And it's getting into this conversation because the congressmen are kind of making this point like, there's all sorts of breakthroughs in technology that would need to be true for this. We need to understand what you're observing and how this works. Luis Elizondo comes out and says, we understand the physics. He says, we know how it works. Whether or not we can produce it is a secondary thing to whether or not our observations in regards to how the craft flies and how they work and the physics involved in it. He goes further and say there are multiple types of craft, and each of those craft have different functions. Like Luis Elizondo is saying some wild shit. And this is the guy who literally was observing this stuff for the government. Now, the truth of it is, Luis Elizondo is a spook. He's an intelligence guy. That was his job. And Tom DeLonge has, for the most part, has a lot of spooks behind him on this, which makes me distrust Tom DeLonge on this.
Yeah.
Tom DeLonge believes in a bad alien theory, that there are bad aliens out there that are going to eat babies. When he got on Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan picked him apart, and there's some other interviews where Tom DeLonge gave where he gets into this bad alien stuff, and he stopped saying that. He stopped bringing that shit up because it sounds outright fucking absurd. It's like, yeah, the aliens try to have a nuclear war. Aliens try to have a nuclear war. All right, Tom, we need you to shut the fuck up and stop talking about this. Stop. But from this basic angle of, are we being visited, and this question of whether it's us or not, I think that's an awesomely fair conversation to have. And, this notion of the information that's hitting the press, the media, all this stuff, like making this topic legitimate. It's the weirdest thing to me that it was like, we are a ball hurling through space. Literally, that's what we are. Yeah. People go through their jobs and they go through their mundane life and all this other stuff. But most of that stuff, government money, the borders, none of that stuff is real. The reality of it is you're a ball hurling through space. You're a person. And we, with our limited technology, are sending stuff to the moon. We're sending probes out in space. But for whatever reason, it's this odd thing to believe that God created us in a petri dish and just had this, this thing. And you just see space out there. That space is not really out there. You have life that grow in volcanic pits. Real talk.
Yeah.
We're supposed to believe that life is only on this planet. Like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And then people would say, well, I'm not saying that something can't evolve somewhere else, but I'm just saying they can't get here. Why do you think that?
Why do you think that? Why are you only thinking in the same amount of dimensions as we know of? There could be other dimensions that you don't know of. There could be wormholes.
Even the technology. Why do you think the technology started and evolved in the same way that our technology started and evolved? There could have been different chemicals. There could have been different processes nearby that gave them different points of view in regards to how they moved along in their technology.
How many times have you seen this? Jamal, how many times have you seen this in the movie? Well, you see, normally, you see what you do is you fold space in on yourself and then you poke it through, and that's how you. How many times have you seen? Theoretically, it's like.
Theoretically, but you realize those movies and everything else, to some degree, has a purpose. Part of that purpose is to get people acclimated to this notion of UFOs. Like, imagine for the moment.
Yeah.
And I've heard people make this argument. It's like, look, the World War II generation, the generation that came out of World War I and World War II would have been capable of dealing with aliens at that point. I mean, after all, you've had, 50 million people like die in this horrific war. Yeah. And you add in aliens to this. Is it something that completely is, maybe, maybe not? I mean, you have certain religious beliefs. You have people who were pretty conservative in their outlook and everything else. And this would have been a complete upending on everything that this country and this world, by the way, was built on. Like technology, different. How people live, different. Do aliens believe in Jesus? Probably not. But the fact that somebody asked that question is somewhat problematic in and of itself. Are the aliens capitalists? These are questions that people ask, and these questions are nonsensical. They mean nothing. They're utterly absurd.
Listen, the most important question, are the aliens for or against Brexit?
Right. Do the aliens, are they okay with Brexit? Otherwise, I'm not going to be for those aliens, man. Fuck those aliens. It's fascinating that the way the public would talk about this. So I can get the two-step, and I get people would be freaked out if you had to kind of disclose that stuff. But the moment that you get the public acclimated, one alien movie after the next, and then they come on and says, yeah, there's something we're being visited, and the public is like, okay.
It's strange you say acclimated, because my next question was literally, I've written down here, which Marvel superhero is going to save us? You know, we keep getting. I have seen Express headline after Express. Express is a newspaper over here that still talk about Diana talking to them from beyond the grave, but they have been talking about alien invasion non-stop for the last 12 months. Non-stop, honestly, non-stop. All of a sudden they started talking about it, and they keep saying that there's going to be some sort of thing with Trump, etc. And then this comes out, and you saying acclimated, etc., and getting primed, and then Trump unleashes his Space Force, and yesterday, I am not kidding, he did his speech on it, and he said, this is the next place of battle that is inevitable, that is for certain, I think he said. Are we getting primed here for this? Are we getting primed for them to say, listen, the aliens are coming here, we can see them, we don't know, we need to stick some money in this military industrial complex in space? Is it all about just arming America to the teeth, not just on this world, but above it as well and beyond? Because that's what it seems like to me. It seems like not just your country, but our country as well, has been hijacked by a national security state that is literally just taking us into an ever never-ending cycle of war, both on this planet and seemingly elsewhere in the solar system, if they can find the technology to do that. Do you agree, mate?
So partially. So we spend $700 billion, and we're not fighting a war. Like, to put it in context, like, seriously, we're spending $700 trillion to hunt people down in caves. And there is no enemy, no real enemy per se. The Soviet Union doesn't exist, and yet NATO lumbers along looking for something to do. And we back it. At this point, there should just be an honest thing that this is kind of a world control thing, and this is kind of a world order that they kind of want to seek to control. I wouldn't be shocked if there was this notion of, all right, now we need to spend money on aliens in space because there's something invading our skies and we don't know what it is.
But Jamal, the public would. Do you agree with me that they could spin it so the public would swallow it?
They could. Well, yes, because the public is easily threatened. I mean, like they were able to go and say weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Yeah.
There were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and with the media coming out with reports like this, the reports themselves can be earnest. And I accept the reports may be earnest. But political actors, I don't trust. And, there's some UFO guys out there who are thinking that, we're going to reach the new stage of human evolution when aliens are disclosed. And I said, nonsense. Would you like to come over my channel to debate it? Because ultimately, we're talking about political actors. And for fuck's sake, we're talking about a Brexit where Jeremy Corbyn has literally done everything he could to tie the government in knots to prevent Boris Johnson from getting his potential for a Brexit. Like, this is cutthroat politics. The same thing happens in the United States. You have income inequality that is beyond anything we have ever seen in this country. And Donald Trump comes up and says, you know what we need more than anything else? We need a tax cut to go to Like, so these are the guys who they're saying is going to bring forth this new UFO reality that is going to be for the best. Nonsense. There is nothing that has happened that makes me believe that these hacks that are in office in this country or any other is going to somehow go to the better angels of their nature when they are dealing with this issue. They're hacks. No, they're going to look for their own self-advantage, their own self-aggrandizement. That's what I believe. That's a cynical perspective. But tell me why that's not true. That's what I believe. So in the same way that you have fear-mongering on Medicare for all and fear-mongering on, Obamacare was going to have death camps, and FEMA camps and all this other nonsense, I think you're going to have the same thing with that. That issue is easily primed to be scrutinized in a way that's purely and overtly political, because it's an X factor. It's not just something is taking place in some place in the world. It is something that is happening off world to us, and we have no idea what it is.
They can literally say what they want.
Right. All the information that you get is entirely given to you.
Yeah.
Which means that information is like you have to entirely believe that the people who are giving you the information, who've shown themselves to lie flagrantly. Do you honestly believe that John Bolton has your best interest in heart if you were disclosing this issue?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do you realize
sure
these guys were trying to take down Venezuela? Pompeo, who is a flagrant liar, who got on stage, said he's lies for a living. He lies, cheats, and steals for a living. John Bolton, who is literally trying to attack the International Criminal Court because they themselves can find him for war crimes and what was taking place in Iraq and Afghanistan. And Abrams, who is a convicted liar for Congress and who was involved in death squads going back in Nicaragua and El Salvador, coming out, all three saying, we care for the best interests of the Venezuelan people, with a straight face. Am I honestly to believe that these people who are this shameless, and this is not just Trump, these guys, Obama greenlit that war for Yemen because he wanted to get the Iran deal through. These people are shameless, that they are going to look out for the best interests of the public on the issue, just because this issue is this extreme and out of our normal way of going about things. No, I don't believe that they're going to change their tenor. And I do believe that they could use this issue for political effect. Oh, there's something in our skies. We don't know what those things in our skies are. We need to spend more money on weapons in space in order to make sure that we're safe. Even if it's not, oh, we're being attacked. It doesn't have to be that. It can even be there's something in our skies that we don't know what it is. We need to spend more money to deal with the thing in our skies. I will tell you this. Part of the doctrine of U.S. security from the standpoint of the Air Force is weapons in space. It's this notion of having supremacy, because the moment that you have weapons in space, it doesn't need to be a nuclear weapon. You can have a platform that just floats above the atmosphere. And when you need to drop a munition on somebody, it can have a targeted satellite munition where it just drops from space and blows it up. And it can float all around space, and we can have complete control and dominance over space. I would guarantee you that that has been the doctrine, the strategy of the U.S. military. The technology just was never there in order to allow them to get to that particular point. Here's the catch. The moment that you put weapons in space, so Russia has put weapons in space, and China has put weapons in space, and all these other countries have to do the exact same thing. Whether they use this in an overt, oh my God, we're being attacked. And the problem with even fear-mongering on this point is that it can easily jump to that. Like it's a one step away from there's something in the skies, we don't know what it is. Oh my God, we're being attacked. That hysteria can work. Do not misunderstand me, especially when it's something that people don't know what it is. So I don't disagree with you in a sense where it's just this absolute disagreement. It is very possible that a shameless government that lies flagrantly, Donald Trump lies every time he opens his mouth, would use something like that for political effect if he thought he can get an ounce of political momentum out of it. I think this weirds Trump out, though, if I'm being honest. Like Clinton seemed to be on board for the alien stuff. I mean, she was caught with alien books. In WikiLeaks, she was trying to get Jimmy Kimmel to ask her about it, about UFOs. And she says, oh, no, it's not UFOs now, it's UAPs. This was a planned question that she was pushing, and her camp was pushing him to ask. And her camp was glowing when she answered it, meaning the assumption was that Clinton was going to win. And with the assumption being Clinton was going to win, all of this information gets put out all of a sudden with Clinton in office. And with all of this information hitting the press with Clinton in office, Clinton has political capital to say, well, I need to open the books now because look at all of these documents. I mean, look at the New York Times and Politico, and that guy's aliens. I got to look in the books. I got to look in the books. It gives her a political capital to do something that she said she was going to do and what John Podesta has wanted to do for the last 20 years. So I think what fucked up the plan was she lost.
Yeah.
She lost. That's a big mess. That's a big part. That's a big deal. The plan when you lose.
I'm not sad about that, by the way.
It's like, yeah, I don't believe in these aliens.
Not sad that she lost, by the way. Even though you got Trump, still not sad she lost.
Not sad in the least.
You brought up Venezuela there, and I'll leave on this point. You brought up Venezuela, and with all the bullshit that we heard about Venezuela from Pompeo, etc., our media just repeated those lies. Even though our media know their lies, they repeated them anyway. With the situation where we've got Space Force, or whatever the fuck Donald Trump's going to call it, that literally is in space. There's no way for our media to know whether that's bullshit or not. Now, when they know things are bullshit, they still just repeat them anyway. With regards to that next frontier, the final frontier,
you have to accept everything they tell you.
Exactly.
Anything that happens. Understand how dangerous this is. Like, one of my episodes of Star Trek that I like, I'm a Star Trek person.
Me too, mate.
I got all
the next, only the next generation, though, not the first. Just the TNG one, just the Jean-Luc Picard.
All of them. I like all of them. Some less than others. Like, I hated Discovery. I didn't like Discovery. Discovery sucked. There were scenes or parts of Discovery that were awesome. The scene with Pike, Captain Pike, because Pike was the one that ended up like really fucked up in the original series. And so when they had Pike in Discovery, it was this way of trying to create a continuity between the two. And there's a scene that has to be probably one of the best scenes in Discovery, where Discovery is just heavy-handed on the identitarian stuff, on the pro-science stuff, even though Star Trek in and of itself was just a science show. You didn't need to go further in that. It was like they just wanted to ding religion. They go too far. That's all. It's so heavy-handed. But there's a scene in it where Pike he has to go and get a crystal because they need to get the information out. It is what it is. And Pike goes to Cronus. He goes to the Klingon home territory. And Pike is told to go away. You're not going to get this crystal. We've broken other men before who's tried to get this particular device and all this other stuff. But Pike is like, I'm a Starfleet officer. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to get this crystal. That's my job. I'm going to do this. I got to do this. There's no other option in this process. And the Klingon says, fine. And they take him to this time crystal where it is like flickering back and forth in time. And Pike has to get this crystal because if he doesn't, Discovery is going to get handed over to the galaxy is going to be fucked up. And Pike gets close to the crystal. He goes to grab it and he sees his future. He sees himself in this explosion and he sees himself trying to rescue these people while allowing himself to be utterly destroyed in this explosion. Skin melts off his face. He's all fucked up. And he sees himself in this wheelchair where he can't talk, can't move his arms. And a little button comes up with yes or no for a little light. And Pike falls back, broken. It breaks him as a man. He's like, oh God, no. And he steadies himself and he's like, I'm a Starfleet officer. I'm a Starfleet officer. This is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. And based on this notion of, as a man, too strong, too weak to handle this, but as an officer of Starfleet, this is what I must do. Even if this means that this is the future that I am going to have to take on by virtue of taking this crystal. God damn it. I'm Captain Pike. I got to do it. And he breaks the crystal off, ensuring that will be his fate. That is one of the best scenes. Much in Discovery, though, it's not that badass, in regards to the show. But the original series, that's a scene in Enterprise, the prequel, the shitty prequel that came out with Captain Archer, the guy from Quantum Leap.
Yes, I remember it. Yes, yeah. Scott Bakula.
It took that show a while for me to grow in me, but these are not evolved humans. These humans are kind of more like us. They're greedy, petty. Some of them are racist and bigoted, that type of stuff. They're more like us. It's a conduit between where we are and where they are. And I remember there was this episode where I think it was like the third episode or second episode where there's only one ship. They have one ship. That's it. Just one ship in space. It's a warp drive 4, like something like that. The ship barely has weapons. And they go pick a fight with this other alien species. And I'm at the sea, like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're going to get our planet nuked. Like he's like, we must stand on our principles and our ideals. And if that means we're going to come into contest with this alien species that we don't know, that we've never come across before, that we've never met, that we have no idea their capabilities, and God damn it, that's what we're going to do. Earth is one ship. They're entirely reliant on Vulcans said that you are not prepared to be out in space. And I said, yeah, the Vulcans are right. The humans are not prepared to be out in space. And this is a show that I love. And I'm looking at the show like, he's going to get our planet nuked. Because you have one ship. You are incapable of defending yourself. And your ideals and all this stuff are great, but there's a reality that you have to deal with that you will get your planet nuked. I say this to say, I think this is the same way of the human beings on this planet now. They are petty, they are greedy, and they do things that are not in the best interest of the whole, purely in the best interest of the individuals. And us in space, where they are just relaying us information where we don't necessarily know what is taking place. And that's not even an alien species or something like that. Just this notion of us in our engagement with other countries. India attacked us. Do we know that? Russia shot down our missile. Do we know that? Our satellite was taken. Do we know that? We don't know any of that stuff. All of that stuff is literally going to be stenographers telling you what took place in space. Yes, you're right. It is a final frontier where we don't necessarily know what is going on, and that makes it that much more dubious in regards to, or dangerous, I should say, in regards to the way we go about, reporting media and whatnot. We're in the dark.
Well, if Donald Trump is looking for, two journalists to go up on the first trip to space, on the Space Force missions, I'm sure you and I would be happy to volunteer. Jamal Thomas, please tell everybody watching where we can find you, mate.
You can find me on Twitter at the Prague Soapbox, or on my channel at Jamal Thomas on YouTube.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you as always. 2.5 hours have just absolutely flown by as always, mate. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everything you're doing. Please subscribe to Jamal. He's great, and we need more people like him. And if we get more people like Jamal standing up and telling people the truth, you know what? The fourth estate and humanity might just have a chance. Jamal, thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, man.
Peace, everyone. Take care.